Most men go their entire lives without discovering this scientifically proven secret, one that often increases their attractiveness to women. It's not about looks, money, or social status. It's far more powerful and influences every attraction stage, from the first conversation to long-term relationships. Suppose you've wondered why some men effortlessly capture a woman's interest while others struggle to make an impact. In that case, the answer lies in a subtle yet profound psychological principle, backed by research and deeply embedded in human nature. Without understanding this, many men feel frustrated and confused, watching as others seem to attract women easily. In this video, we'll break down the psychology behind this secret, revealing the study, proving its effectiveness, and, most importantly, explaining how to apply it. You'll learn why women are naturally drawn to men who use this approach, whether they realize it or not, and how it can completely shift how you interact with them. And stay until the end, because I'll share an additional technique to amplify your attractiveness further. Let's dive in. 1. The psychology of attraction. Why women prefer earned approval. Human attraction is a complex and subconscious process influenced by various psychological mechanisms. One particularly intriguing phenomenon is the way women respond to different types of feedback and how these responses shape their attraction to others. A scientific study on interpersonal attraction explored this dynamic by examining how women reacted to overheard evaluations about themselves. The results revealed a pattern that sheds light on an essential truth. Women find people most attractive when they start with a critical or neutral stance, but later shift toward a more positive evaluation. The study presented 4 scenarios. In the first, women overheard consistently positive feedback about themselves. In the second, they heard consistently negative feedback. The third scenario involved an initial negative impression that gradually improved over time. This was labeled as a gain in esteem. Finally, the fourth scenario showed the reverse pattern, an initially positive perception that later declined, known as a loss of esteem. The findings were striking. Women reported the highest attraction toward evaluators in the gain in esteem condition. Those who started with a negative impression but later expressed growing admiration were seen as more desirable than those who were positive. Conversely, the least attractive evaluators were those whose admiration faded over time. This pattern highlights a fundamental aspect of human psychology. People value what is earned more than what is freely given. Admiration can feel insincere or unearned when given too quickly or without conditions. On the other hand, when someone initially holds a neutral or even critical stance, but gradually develops appreciation and respect, that approval carries more weight. Women in particular are drawn to this dynamic because it suggests authenticity. The shift from skepticism to admiration signals that the evaluator has carefully observed and genuinely changed their opinion based on a more profound understanding. This creates a sense of validation and accomplishment, making the approval more meaningful. This psychological principle has profound implications for dating and relationships. Men who are overly eager to please, shower women with compliments too soon, or express unwavering admiration from the start, may unwittingly diminish their perceived value. If attraction is tied to earned approval, then constant praise without a journey of discovery can feel shallow. In contrast, when a man starts with a balanced, discerning approach, perhaps appreciating some qualities but not immediately being won over, his eventual admiration feels more genuine. This gradual shift makes a woman feel she has genuinely captivated his interest over time, rather than simply being another recipient of automatic praise. This is not to say that men should be deliberately critical or dismissive. Instead, the key is authenticity. Instead of rushing to impress, men should focus on forming a sincere and thoughtful opinion about a woman. It's about allowing attraction to develop naturally, rather than forcing it through immediate and excessive validation. Women don't necessarily seek men who are difficult to please, but they appreciate the feeling of winning someone over through genuine connections and shared experiences. Understanding this dynamic can help men build stronger, more meaningful connections. Attraction is not just about initial chemistry, but the ongoing interplay of admiration, respect, and emotional investment. A relationship that grows over time, where appreciation is cultivated rather than given unconditionally, creates a more profound and lasting bond. The most attractive relationships are those in which both partners feel their value is recognized and earned, not simply assumed from the start. 2. The gain-loss theory and its impact on attraction. Human psychology is deeply wired to respond to changes in social dynamics, especially regarding approval and validation. This is where the gain-loss theory comes into play. This theory explains why people are more emotionally invested in selective approval than constant, unchanging validation. When applied to relationships and attraction, it reveals a crucial insight. Women value a man's discernment over blind admiration. Imagine receiving a steady stream of praise from someone who always agrees with you, never questions you, and never challenges you. At first, it may feel comforting, even flattering, but over time it begins to lose its value. If approval is given too quickly, it feels generic, insincere, and ultimately meaningless. On the other hand, selective approval, where positive feedback follows genuine evaluation, creates a much more substantial emotional impact. When someone whose opinion you respect offers honest criticism but later acknowledges your strengths, their validation carries significantly more weight. This is because negative feedback, when given appropriately, triggers emotions such as self-doubt and uncertainty. It challenges a person to reflect on their behavior and worth in the evaluator's eyes. However, when positive feedback follows after this moment of uncertainty, it feels far more rewarding. The mind perceives it as a reduction of previous anxiety, making the praise more impactful and desirable. In the context of dating, this means that women are more likely to value the approval of a man who demonstrates discernment. Someone who does not automatically praise everything she says or does, but evaluates and acknowledges qualities that genuinely impress him. This does not mean men should be overly critical or play manipulative mind games. The key lies in being authentic. A man who offers genuine positive and negative feedback demonstrates confidence, self-assurance, and emotional depth. Women are naturally drawn to men who have standards, recognize quality, and are willing to express honest opinions, rather than defaulting to mindless agreement. When a woman sees that a man is not easily swayed and does not offer validation indiscriminately, she perceives his approval as worth earning, and when she does receive it, it holds real significance. The mistake many men make is assuming that being constantly agreeable and showering a woman with non-stop praise will make her like them more. In reality, this often has the opposite effect. Women do not want blind adoration. They want to feel seen, understood, and valued for who they are. A man who never challenges a woman's thoughts, offers a different perspective, or never expresses his standards may initially appear safe and easy to be around, but he will rarely inspire deep attraction. Attraction is built on emotional engagement, and emotional engagement thrives on contrast. This is why people tend to be more captivated by those who present a balance of challenge and reward. The push and pull dynamic of gaining someone's approval after first experiencing doubt creates a psychological thrill. This is not manipulation, it is the natural way the human mind assigns value to social interactions. A woman does not want a man who worships her without question. She wants to be intrigued, challenged, and appreciated for her outstanding qualities. When a man understands the power of selective approval, he positions himself as someone whose validation is meaningful, his opinions are respected, his words carry weight, and his attraction deepens not because he is always agreeable, but because he is thoughtful, discerning, and accurate. 3. How women naturally use gain-loss in dating. When a woman meets a man for the first time, she rarely offers immediate approval. This isn't a conscious act of resistance, but rather a natural part of attraction. Women instinctively position themselves as evaluators, assessing a man's confidence, charisma, and emotional intelligence before investing further. They want to feel like they are choosing a man of value, rather than someone desperately seeking validation. This dynamic explains why so many men chase a woman's attention without realizing that the more they seek approval, the less attractive they become in her eyes. Most men fall into the trap of believing that they must prove themselves. They work tirelessly to win a woman over, hoping that they will eventually gain her approval by showing unwavering interest and affection. The irony is that this effort often has the opposite effect. The more a man positions himself as the pursuer, the more he signals that he sees the woman as the prize, while viewing himself as someone who must earn her attention. Conversely, women are drawn to men who project confidence and value from within, rather than those who constantly try to win approval. The secret to shifting this dynamic lies in subtly reversing the roles. Instead of positioning himself as the one seeking validation, a man should learn to evaluate the woman in a way that piques her interest. This doesn't mean being arrogant or dismissive or playing games to manipulate her emotions. Instead, it involves developing a mindset where he genuinely sees himself as someone worth choosing, someone who has standards, and someone capable of walking away if a connection does not align with his values. Women are deeply attuned to energy shifts, and when a man carries himself as someone who is assessing the interaction rather than blindly pursuing it, she will naturally feel more engaged. However, there is a fine line between using this strategy effectively and misapplying it in a way that backfires. Some men mistakenly believe that to shift the power dynamic, they need to criticize a woman, make her feel insecure, or play hard to get, artificial. This approach is not only ineffective, but also counterproductive. Women are highly perceptive and can easily differentiate between a naturally confident man and an overcompensating man. Directly criticizing a woman and switching to a more affectionate tone later is a poor strategy that will often push her away rather than intrigue her. Instead, the correct approach involves subtle, playful assessments that create intrigue without making her feel attacked. A man who naturally shifts his energy maintains a light-hearted sense of humor and demonstrates that he is not overly invested too soon, creating a sense of mystery that makes him more appealing. Women want to feel like they are engaging with someone who has his standards and is not easily won over by mere physical beauty alone. When a man says he is observing and assessing rather than blindly chasing, he naturally becomes more attractive. Attraction is not about convincing someone to like you. It's about maintaining a presence that invites curiosity, allowing the woman to invest in the interaction rather than feeling like she is being pursued without question. The key is to hold a genuine sense of self-worth, engage confidently, and understand that approval should always be mutual. Women are drawn to men who recognize their value, and by subtly shifting the energy in an interaction, a man can transform the dating dynamic naturally and compellingly. 4. How to speak to a woman with confidence and discernment. How a man speaks to a woman can determine how she perceives him, not just in terms of attraction but value. Women instinctively seek out men who demonstrate confidence, discernment, and a sense of selectiveness. When a man communicates in a way that suggests he genuinely evaluates her rather than blindly seeking her approval, she feels more valued and intrigued. The key is to strike a balance, showing interest without appearing desperate, and maintaining high standards without sounding arrogant. One effective way to create this dynamic is through mild uncertainty. Instead of immediately showering a woman with compliments or acting as though she has already won you over, a subtle statement of hesitation adds an element of intrigue. Saying something like, "I wasn't sure about coming over, but you're quite interesting," creates a sense of playfulness. It signals that while she has caught your attention, she is still being evaluated. This subtle challenge makes interactions more dynamic because it shows that you have standards and she must meet them to gain your complete approval. Another approach is evaluative playfulness, which acknowledges an initial impression but allows for growth. A statement like, "At first I thought you were shy, but your confidence is coming through," shows an interesting contrast. It suggests that you have taken the time to observe and reassess your perception, making her feel noticed and appreciated for more than just her appearance. Women enjoy feeling understood deeply. This type of statement allows them to reveal more about themselves while keeping the conversation engaging. However, it's important to avoid sounding arrogant or dismissive. A phrase such as, "I wasn't sure about talking to you, but I guess you might be interesting," can come across as condescending, which will likely push her away rather than draw her in. The key is to keep the tone light-hearted and playful, not cold or superior. Women respond positively to a man who sets high standards, but does so with warmth and charm rather than harshness. This approach works because it taps into a fundamental psychological principle. People value what they must earn. Women, particularly those accustomed to easy compliments and attention, find encountering a man who doesn't immediately pedestalize them is refreshing. By demonstrating discernment in your communication, you position yourself as a man of value, someone whose approval is meaningful rather than given freely. The secret lies in making her feel like she is being chosen rather than simply being the recipient of automatic admiration. When a woman senses that a man has standards and is evaluating her just as much as she is evaluating him, she naturally becomes more invested. This creates a dynamic where attraction builds through mutual intrigue rather than one-sided pursuit. When speaking to a woman, remember that attraction is about the words you use and the energy behind them. Confidence, playfulness, and discernment set you apart. Instead of trying to win her over with empty flattery, engage with her in a way that makes her feel challenged and appreciated. This is how true connection and attraction are formed, through genuine interaction rather than blind validation. 5. The power of playfully challenging humor in attraction. Humor is one of the most effective yet underrated tools in attraction. It's not just about making her laugh, it's about how you make her feel while laughing. Women are naturally drawn to men who exhibit confidence, wit, and social intelligence, and playfully challenging humor is a direct way to demonstrate all three. Unlike generic jokes or scripted lines, this style of humor adds a layer of intrigue, creating a fun and flirtatious dynamic that sparks attraction on a subconscious level. Imagine this scenario. You meet a woman and she casually mentions that she's a dentist. A typical, predictable response would be, "Oh wow, how long have you been doing that?" While polite, this reply is uninspired and does nothing to make you stand out from the dozens of other men she's spoken to before. Now, contrast that with a more playful, engaging response. "Oh no, I have dentures, can you tell?" Or, "Okay, I brushed my teeth today, so take it easy on me." The second approach immediately creates a light-hearted interaction, making the conversation more exciting and spontaneous. Why does this work so well? First, it subtly challenges her in a way that forces her to think and engage. She's not just answering a routine question. She's now part of a playful exchange that disrupts the monotony of small talk. This kind of humor also signals confidence. Most men fear saying something outside the norm because they don't want to risk sounding foolish. But when you show that you're comfortable teasing her in a fun, non-offensive way, it communicates that you're socially aware and self-assured. Rest assured. On a deeper psychological level, playfully challenging humor mimics the natural push and pull dynamic that fuels attraction. It creates a sense of unpredictability that keeps the conversation fresh and engaging. Women are not drawn to men who seek constant approval, but to men who know how to have fun while maintaining their sense of self. The key here is balance. Teasing should always come with a smile, a light-hearted tone, and an energy that invites her to play along rather than feel put down. Consider another example. If she mentions she loves running marathons, instead of responding with, "That's cool, how many have you done?" try something more unexpected. "Wow, I only run when I'm being chased. Are you training for the apocalypse?" It's simple yet effective. It shifts the conversation from predictable to playful, inviting her to engage with you more dynamically. The ability to make a woman laugh while keeping her on her toes creates an instant emotional connection. It's a display of intelligence, wit, and confidence all wrapped in one. Playfully challenging humor is a refreshing break from the norm in a world where many interactions feel rehearsed and dull. It sparks curiosity, builds anticipation, and leaves her wanting more. So, don't just play it safe with conventional responses next time you're conversing. Lean into humor that playfully challenges her, keeping things unpredictable and fun. The more you can embrace this dynamic communication style, the more effortlessly attraction will follow. 6. Reversing the attraction dynamic, becoming the evaluator. One of the men's biggest mistakes in dating is seeking approval from women. Many men unknowingly position themselves as the ones trying to impress, hoping they will win her over if they say the right thing, act the right way, or meet the right expectations. This mindset places women in the role of the evaluator, while the man passively waits for her to decide if he is worthy. However, the truth about attraction is that high-value men don't operate this way. Instead of seeking validation, they take on the role of the evaluator themselves. A man who understands his worth does not desperately chase approval. He doesn't walk into an interaction hoping she likes him. Instead, he approaches dating from the perspective of choice. He assesses whether the woman before him aligns with his values, interests, and lifestyle. He is not impressed by beauty alone. He looks for depth, compatibility, and genuine connection. This is not arrogance or detachment, but rather a shift in mindset naturally occurring in men with experience and confidence in dating. Those who have spent time meeting different women, engaging in meaningful conversations, and understanding their desires eventually realize that attraction is a two-way street. It's not just about being chosen. When a man adopts this mindset, the dynamics of attraction change ultimately. Instead of feeling pressure to prove himself, he carries a calm, unshaken confidence. He is not desperate for a woman's attention because he knows he has options. If a woman is uninteresting, disengaged, or does not meet his standards, he understands he can simply meet another one. This detachment from the outcome creates a powerful shift. Suddenly, the woman feels the need to win him over. The more he conveys that he has standards and expectations of his own, the more attractive he becomes. Women are instinctively drawn to men who exude self-assurance. A man who knows his value and isn't afraid to walk away creates a sense of intrigue. He becomes someone she wants to impress, someone whose attention she must earn rather than someone who blindly offers it. This dynamic activates a psychological response where she begins to feel the need to prove herself, making her more invested in the interaction. It is a fundamental principle of human nature. We value what we have to work for. This approach does not mean treating women poorly or playing manipulative games. It is not about acting uninterested or withholding attention as a tactic. Instead, it is about developing a genuine sense of self-worth and an abundance mindset. A man who knows he has choices will not tolerate disrespect, disinterest, or low effort. He will naturally gravitate toward women who bring value to his life, and in doing so he will attract those who respect and admire him in return. The key takeaway is simple. Stop trying to win her approval and start asking whether she meets your standards. Shift your mindset from hoping she likes you to decide if she is the right fit for you. When you embrace this perspective, you will find that the quality of your interactions changes and the level of attraction women feel toward you increases. The moment you stop chasing approval and start being the evaluator, you step into the role of a genuinely desirable man. 7. Long-term relationships and marriage. Understanding gain-loss dynamics. In the early stages of a relationship, everything seems exciting. There is a constant flow of affection, compliments, and mutual appreciation. Couples seem to glow with positivity as they explore each other's world. However, as time progresses, this dynamic often begins to shift. In their desire to please and secure their partner's love, many men seek approval more frequently. This pattern, while seemingly harmless at first, can harm attraction in the long term. One of the key elements in maintaining a strong relationship and keeping attraction alive is the delicate balance between giving and receiving validation. When a man shifts from being an equal partner to constantly seeking approval from his partner, the dynamics start to change. By doing so, he inadvertently relinquishes the evaluator role, the person who assesses behaviors and decides how much affection or attention to give. When a man consistently seeks approval, he places himself in a subordinate position, which can make him less attractive over time. Women naturally are drawn to partners who have their sense of self and maintain their standards of admiration. In relationships, attraction thrives when both individuals feel valued and respected. To keep the spark alive, a man needs to maintain autonomy and not become overly reliant on his partner's validation. This does not mean withholding affection or love, but ensuring that approval and affection are earned. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect and the understanding that admiration should be selectively given, not automatically provided. For example, a man who seeks constant validation from his partner runs the risk of the woman losing interest. The more he gives up the evaluator role and seeks approval, the more he may appear insecure or dependent. Women in general are attracted to men who are self-assured and capable of making their own decisions without constant reassurance. It loses value when the validation is unearned and given freely without any sense of accomplishment or effort. This shift in dynamics can create emotional distance and decrease overall attraction. On the other hand, when a man retains his role as the evaluator, the attraction remains high. A man who takes the time to assess his partner's behaviors subtly and rewards her actions when she meets his standards creates an environment where both partners feel appreciated but not overly indulged. Showing affection selectively in response to behaviors the man admires or finds valuable balances the relationship. It keeps the excitement alive and ensures that appreciation is earned, not taken for granted. In this dynamic type, a woman feels genuinely rewarded when she gains her partner's esteem. The act of earning validation becomes more meaningful, and the desire to maintain that admiration fuels her investment in the relationship. This more potent form of connection fosters respect, appreciation, and deeper engagement. A woman who knows she must earn her partner's approval will naturally make more effort to demonstrate behaviors that align with his values and desires, leading to a more fulfilling and long-lasting relationship. Ultimately, maintaining attraction in a long-term relationship or marriage hinges on a man's ability to position himself as the selector, not the one who constantly seeks approval. It's about maintaining a sense of mystery and respect. If a man remains the one who evaluates and subtly rewards, the relationship retains its vitality. This dynamic keeps both partners engaged, each feeling valued for the right reasons and contributing to a deep, lasting connection. Women are naturally drawn to men with a sense of self and a standard of admiration that isn't easily won. When a man maintains this balance, the attraction remains strong and the relationship stays vibrant and fulfilling. In dating and relationships, the dynamics of attraction can often feel like a mysterious game. Women are naturally attuned to assess men, evaluating their behavior, confidence, and overall appeal. However, a powerful psychological principle can flip the script, creating an intriguing twist in how attraction works. This principle is known as the gain-loss effect, and when applied strategically, it can dramatically shift the way women perceive you both. The gain-loss effect is rooted in the concept of value. People tend to find something more valuable when they perceive they might lose it or it's not immediately accessible. By subtly showing discernment and not blindly approving of every woman you meet, you introduce an element of mystery and challenge that can increase your attractiveness. Resisting the urge to give away your approval too easily is essential. When you are selective in your interactions, women perceive you as a higher value individual. The key here is not to be disingenuous, but to maintain a healthy level of independence and self-worth. Your approval, when given, should feel earned rather than freely given. This behavior introduces a healthy amount of uncertainty, which can spark interest and make you appear more desirable. Another powerful aspect of the gain-loss effect is the subtlety of uncertainty and playful challenges. When you don't immediately confirm every thought or feeling a woman shares, it adds an element of curiosity. Women are naturally drawn to men who create a sense of mystery, not by playing games, but by not revealing everything simultaneously. This doesn't mean being distant or aloof, but instead fostering an environment where she feels that she needs to earn your attention and approval. You create a connection based on curiosity and intellectual engagement by playfully challenging her assumptions or inviting her to share her more profound thoughts. Moreover, men who evaluate women rather than simply seeking their validation or approval tend to be more attractive in the long term. This subtle shift from seeking external validation to assessing the qualities of your partner can make a huge difference in how you are perceived. Women appreciate self-assured and thoughtful men, not just those chasing their approval. You create confidence that invites deeper connection and respect by actively evaluating the dynamic. Maintaining attraction over time requires an ongoing dance of affection and distance in relationships. This doesn't mean being cold or distant, but selectively showing affection at the right moments. When affection is given too freely, it can lose its value. Instead, making your affection feel earned, whether through a thoughtful gesture, an unexpected compliment, or an emotionally intimate moment, can increase the depth of the relationship. When affection is given in moderation, it maintains its emotional charge and fosters a sense of longing which can keep the attraction alive. By strategically applying the principles of the gain-loss effect, you can reshape how you approach dating and relationships. Discerning, creating subtle uncertainty, and evaluating the connection are potent tools that increase attraction and foster more profound, fulfilling relationships. When you understand how to balance approval, affection, and challenge, you naturally elevate your dating life and become more desirable in the eyes of those you wish to connect with. Ultimately, the key to lasting attraction lies in mastering this dynamic. Women are naturally drawn to men who exude confidence, discernment, and a playful yet selective nature. By understanding and applying these principles, you can shift from seeking approval to deciding where to give it. What do you think? Have you ever noticed how attraction changes when a woman feels she has to earn your attention? Share your experiences in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights on relationships, psychology, and attraction dynamics. When a woman emotionally checks out a relationship, she rarely announces it outright. Instead, she speaks through her actions, gradually withdrawing, engaging less, and creating distance in ways that can be subtle but deeply significant. Many men fail to notice these warning signs until it's too late. They mistake her silence for peace, her disinterest for a temporary phase, and her distance for personal stress, rather than a shift in the relationship itself. But the truth is, when a woman stops investing emotionally, something has already changed. This video will reveal 5 key signs that a woman is emotionally disengaging, helping you recognize when your relationship is at risk. These are not just random behaviors, but clear indicators of emotional detachment, often signaling that she's already considering an exit. But here's the critical part. If you catch these signs early enough, there may still be time to turn things around. By the end of this video, you'll understand what these signs mean and how to respond in a way that gives your relationship the best chance of survival, if saving it is still possible. And if it isn't, you'll learn how to walk away with self-respect, dignity, and a clear path forward. Stay until the end for a crucial final insight to help you navigate this situation clearly and confidently. Let's get started. 1. She stops initiating conversations. In the early stages of a relationship, when a woman is emotionally invested, she naturally finds ways to stay connected. She sends messages in the morning, checks in throughout the day, and engages in conversations to hear your voice. But when those moments of warmth and effort begin to disappear, it's not just a coincidence. It's a shift in emotional energy that signals something more profound is happening beneath the surface. A woman withdrawing from initiating conversations is one of the earliest and most evident signs of emotional disengagement. It's not always an abrupt change. Sometimes it happens gradually. What used to be frequent and enthusiastic messages turned into delayed responses, then short replies, and finally silence. If she was once eager to share the details of her day but now only responds when necessary, It's a sign she is no longer as emotionally invested as she once was. The reason behind this withdrawal can vary. She might feel unappreciated, as though she has carried most of the emotional weight in the relationship. She may pull back to protect herself if her efforts go unnoticed. In some cases, she might struggle with personal issues unrelated to you. Still, if her withdrawal is directed explicitly at the relationship, it's crucial to acknowledge the shift before it becomes permanent. If you've noticed this change, take a moment to reflect. Have you been emotionally present? Have you reciprocated her efforts or unknowingly taken them for granted? Relationships require mutual investment, and sometimes a woman's silence isn't meant to be a punishment. It's a response to feeling unappreciated or overlooked. The best approach in this situation is to address the change directly. Instead of assuming or overanalyzing, have an open and honest conversation with her. Ask if something has changed and whether she feels differently about the relationship. This isn't about interrogation or forcing an answer. It's about creating a safe space where she can express her thoughts without fear of judgment. Small efforts can make a difference if there's still an emotional connection. A simple acknowledgement of her feelings, showing appreciation for the little things she does, and trying to be more emotionally engaged can sometimes reignite the bond. Women don't necessarily need grand gestures. What matters most is consistency and genuine emotional presence. However, if she has already emotionally checked out, pushing for more conversations or trying to force engagement will likely backfire. When prolonged and intentional, silence is often her way of distancing herself before she entirely walks away. In such cases, the best course of action might be to accept the reality of the situation and let her go. Holding on to someone who has already detached emotionally will only lead to frustration and disappointment. Understanding a woman's silence is crucial in relationships. It can either be a call for attention and care, or a sign that she's already preparing to move on. The key is recognizing the difference and responding with the right balance of awareness and emotional maturity. 2. Her responses become short and distant. When a woman's responses become short and distant, it's often a sign of emotional withdrawal. If conversations that once felt warm and engaging now consist of one-word replies like, "Okay," "Fine," or "Sure," and she no longer shows enthusiasm, it's time to pay attention. Communication is the foundation of any relationship. When it starts to erode, there is usually a deeper reason behind it. A woman who disengages emotionally will stop initiating conversations, avoid deep discussions, and respond in vague or obligatory ways. It may feel as if she is physically present but emotionally absent. At first, it might be easy to dismiss it as stress or exhaustion, but if this pattern continues, it often indicates that she is detaching from the relationship. There are several possible reasons why a woman may begin to respond shortly and distantly. One of the most common is that she has mentally checked out of the relationship but remains physically present out of habit. Women often leave emotionally before they do physically, and her disengagement may be a gradual process rather than an intentional decision. If she no longer sees value in the connection, she may stop putting in effort, leading to a noticeable shift in her communication. Another possibility is that she feels unheard or unappreciated. Women naturally seek emotional connection, and when they start holding back, it often means they no longer feel valued. If she used to share everything with you, her thoughts, dreams, and daily experiences, but now barely contributes to conversations, she might feel her words no longer matter. A woman who doesn't feel emotionally safe or appreciated will begin to withdraw, not out of anger, but as a form of self-protection. Her disengagement might also result from an internal struggle unrelated to the relationship. Stress, depression, personal insecurities, or external pressures could all play a role. However, the key distinction is whether she still turns to you for support. If she used to confide in you but now keeps things to herself, it's a sign that she no longer sees you as her emotional anchor. The worst mistake a man can make in this situation is to ignore the issue or assume she will snap out of it alone. When a woman starts becoming distant, it's a call for attention, whether she realizes it or not. Instead of assuming she is just not in the mood, open the conversation with genuine concern. A simple but sincere question like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been quieter lately. Is something on your mind?" can create space for her to express her feelings. The key is to listen without immediately trying to fix the problem. Women need to feel heard before they feel understood. If her distance is a reaction to feeling overlooked, you must reassess how you've shown up in the relationship. Have you been distracted? Have you been taking her presence for granted? Have you stopped making her feel special? Relationships require ongoing effort, and sometimes a woman's emotional withdrawal is a reflection of your disengagement. You can begin to change the dynamic by making her feel valued again. This doesn't mean grand gestures or overcompensating with gifts. It means showing up consistently in small but meaningful ways. Reignite conversations with genuine curiosity about her thoughts and emotions, remembering small details, asking about her dreams, validating her feelings, and expressing appreciation for her presence can all help rebuild the emotional connection. At the same time, it's important not to force lengthy conversations or pressure her to engage when she is detached. The goal isn't to demand more from her, but to create an environment where she naturally wants to reconnect. If she is emotionally checked out despite your best efforts, it may be time to reassess whether the relationship is still fulfilling for both of you. Women rarely wake up one day and decide to be distant. The change happens gradually, and she has likely been feeling this way for a while by the time it's obvious. If you've tried opening conversations, making her feel heard, and trying to reignite the emotional bond, but she remains cold and unresponsive, it's a sign that she may have already made up her mind. Sometimes a woman's emotional withdrawal prepares her to leave. She may already have one foot out the door, consciously or subconsciously. If this is the case, the best thing you can do is maintain your self-respect. Chasing after someone who has already checked out will drain your energy and lower your value. Ultimately, the goal isn't just to fix the relationship. It's to be in a relationship where emotional connection flows naturally. If a woman consistently shows signs of disengagement despite your best efforts, it's important to recognize when it's time to let go and focus on someone who reciprocates your energy. The right woman won't make you feel like you must fight for her attention. She will give it willingly. 3. She avoids spending time with you. Something within the relationship has shifted when a woman avoids spending time with you. Initially, this behavior might seem subtle. Perhaps she cancels plans at the last minute, reschedules dates repeatedly, or stops initiating time together. However, over time, it becomes more pronounced when she starts prioritizing other people or activities, spending more time with friends, family, or even on her own, while showing little interest in being with you. It's a red flag that she's emotionally withdrawing. In the early stages of a relationship, both partners actively seek each other's company, plan regular dates, spend quality time together, and show interest in the other person's life. However, when that initiative diminishes and the effort to connect fades away, something more profound is likely happening. Suppose she's no longer looking forward to the small moments you shared, like weekend hangouts, spontaneous dinners, or just enjoying time together at home. In that case, it's often a sign that she's mentally and emotionally checked out of the relationship. Her responses might feel more obligatory than eager when she agrees to spend time with you. It's not just about the physical distance. It's also about emotional detachment. One of the most telling signs of this shift is when she becomes distant in conversation and less interested in engaging with you. You might find that even when you're together, she's distracted or more focused on her phone or other things around her. Her body language becomes closed off, and she may appear uninterested in discussing anything meaningful. Where once you'd have deep and meaningful exchanges, now her answers are brief, often just fine, okay, or sure. And there's no enthusiasm or investment in continuing the conversation. When someone values you, they naturally seek your company, want to share parts of their day, and express interest in the life you're building together. If a woman avoids that level of engagement, her feelings for you are likely fading. This behavior change is rarely a random occurrence, and it's usually tied to a deeper underlying issue. A woman might distance herself if she feels emotionally drained, unfulfilled, or bored in the relationship. Over time, if the spark is lost and there is no effort to rekindle the connection, she may pull away to avoid facing the uncomfortable reality of dissatisfaction. Alternatively, she might be testing what life would be like without you. By creating distance, she subconsciously evaluates whether she misses you or if her life is better without the relationship. This phase can be incredibly confusing for both partners, as it might seem like she's stuck in limbo, unsure of what she wants but not yet ready to decide. In some cases, the reasons for this behavior could be more troubling. Perhaps she has found someone else, or discovered something that provides her with the emotional fulfillment that the relationship no longer offers. This does not necessarily indicate infidelity, but it might be a sign that she is emotionally or mentally investing in something else, whether it's another person, a passion, or even an interest that consumes her attention. If this is the case, the relationship becomes secondary, and you're left wondering where things went wrong. How you respond to this situation will be critical in determining whether the relationship can be salvaged or if it's time to move on. The first step is to look honestly at the effort you've both been putting into the relationship. Have you been investing time and energy to keep things fresh and exciting, or have you both fallen into a routine where emotional connection takes a backseat? Relationships require constant nurturing, and when both partners stop trying to connect, the bond naturally begins to weaken. To reignite the spark, focus on planning activities that will bring you closer together and remind her of the reasons you connected in the first place. These don't have to be extravagant gestures, but thoughtful actions like cooking dinner together, revisiting places you used to enjoy, or even just taking a walk to talk without distractions can work wonders. She will respond positively to these efforts if she is still emotionally invested. However, if she continues to pull away, it might be time to discuss the distance between you two directly. Gently ask her if something she's been feeling or something specific has caused her to withdraw. Approach this conversation with empathy, without blaming or accusing. Tell her you've noticed the change and care about what's happening with her. What's crucial here is not to force her into a situation where she feels obligated to spend time with you. Pressuring her into conversations or demanding more attention will only deepen the emotional gap and create resentment. If she's already emotionally detached, pushing her will make things worse. Instead, Allow her the space to open up when she feels ready, and be patient. The truth is that genuine emotional connection cannot be forced. It needs to come naturally from both sides. At this point, it's essential to acknowledge that not every relationship can be fixed. If your efforts to reignite the connection continue to be met with disinterest or further withdrawal, it might be time to accept that the relationship has ended. Sometimes, the most difficult and painful decision is to let go, realizing that one person can't carry the emotional weight of the relationship alone. If you've done everything possible to communicate, reconnect, and make the relationship work, but she continues disengaging, it's a clear sign that she's no longer invested. In those cases, it's essential to focus on moving forward. Rather than chasing someone unwilling to meet you halfway, focus on building a life where you're valued, appreciated, and cherished. A healthy relationship is one where both partners give and receive equally, where time spent together is a choice driven by mutual desire, not obligation. Let go of what's slipping away and create space for something that will nurture your growth, fulfillment, and happiness. Relationships, like people, evolve. Sometimes they grow into something new and beautiful, and other times they simply run their course. Knowing when to walk away is one of the most important lessons you can learn about the heart. 4. She no longer argues or cares about problems. When a woman no longer engages in arguments or expresses concern about problems in the relationship, it's a clear signal that something has changed. This shift often marks the point where emotional detachment starts to take root. She may no longer bring up the issues that used to bother her, nor does she show any interest in addressing the challenges that arise. The silence can be deafening, especially for someone who used to voice their opinions passionately. She may have been vocal about what bothered her, often seeking a resolution or acknowledging her feelings. Now, she's withdrawn. The absence of argument doesn't signify peace. It's a sign of apathy, and one of the most worrying red flags in a relationship. The emotional shift here is profound. When a woman no longer fights for the relationship, it typically means losing hope. She has tried communicating her concerns before, but perhaps she felt unheard or misunderstood. With time, the effort to express her needs may have been met with indifference or frustration. This leads to emotional burnout, where she stops trying because she no longer believes change is possible. When the person you love stops caring about the outcome of the relationship, it's not because they don't care about you. It's because they've emotionally disconnected, either to protect themselves or to prepare for an inevitable departure. In some cases, the lack of engagement is a defense mechanism. She may have reached an emotionally exhausted point, and bringing up problems no longer feels productive. She may even think that arguing or complaining only leads to conflict or further disconnection, so she chooses silence over engagement. It's important to understand that silence in this context isn't a sign of peace. It's a form of resignation. She might still be in the relationship physically, but emotionally, she's already checked out. The reasons behind this withdrawal can vary. Perhaps there were issues in the relationship that were never adequately addressed, and she's given up on trying to fix them. If she has repeatedly attempted to voice her concerns and seen no change in your actions, she might feel there's no point in continuing the discussion. This is where emotional burnout takes hold, when she stops seeing the value in fighting for something that feels stagnant or unresponsive. This disconnection doesn't happen overnight. It results from continuous neglect or dismissiveness over time. One of the most crucial things to understand here is that silence is not synonymous with happiness. Just because she isn't arguing doesn't mean that everything is fine. The absence of conflict can often signal deeper problems than any argument could ever expose. If she no longer speaks up or expresses dissatisfaction, it may indicate losing interest in seeking a resolution. The relationship has shifted from one of shared effort and mutual care to one of emotional detachment. What can you do if you recognize these signs in your relationship? The first step is acknowledging past mistakes and showing her you care. If you've been inattentive to her needs or have ignored her concerns, take responsibility. Apologize for the times you weren't present, whether physically or emotionally, and prove that you are willing to change your behavior. This step is essential for re-establishing trust and opening the door for communication. Reigniting communication is another key element in addressing this emotional gap. Instead of waiting for her to speak up, ask her meaningful questions about how she feels and what she needs from the relationship moving forward. Create a safe space where she feels comfortable sharing her emotions without fear of judgment or dismissal. A simple, "How are you feeling?" or "Is there something on your mind that we should talk about?" provides the time to be unadorned and can go a long way in opening the floodgates of communication. However, it's essential to approach these conversations with care. Don't mistake her silence for contentment. Pushing her to talk before she's ready may create more tension and pressure her. Allow her the time and space to open up at her own pace. Let her know you are there for her, but respect her boundaries. It's important to listen, not just to respond, but to hear her truly, what she says, what she doesn't say, and how she feels. In any relationship, it's easy to get caught up in the cycle of miscommunication, mainly when both partners operate from different emotional places. But if you can't break this cycle and nothing changes, it might be a sign that the emotional investment is no longer mutual. If your efforts to restore connection are continually met with silence or indifference, it may be time to reassess the relationship's future. Don't fall into the trap of believing that avoiding conflict means everything is okay. Silence may seem peaceful on the surface, but it's often a mask for deeper emotional turmoil. It's not too late to turn things around, but it requires both partners to be fully engaged and committed to rebuilding the foundation of the relationship. 5. Almost everyone spends more time on her phone around you. If you've noticed that your partner seems increasingly absorbed in her phone when you're together, it's a sign that something in your relationship may be shifting. At first, it may seem like a small thing. She's scrolling through social media or texting others during dinner or while you're conversing. However, this can become more frequent over time, leading to a feeling of emotional distance between you. One of the most telling signs that she's disengaging is when her attention constantly shifts away from you to the screen in front of her. She may actively participate in digital conversations, but avoids engaging with you face to face. While this might seem harmless on the surface, it often indicates a deeper problem. She is emotionally checked out of the relationship and is using her phone as a form of escape. If she is distracted by her digital world, it can create a sense of loneliness for the partner who feels neglected. This behavior can also manifest subtly, such as texting during meals or checking her notifications in the middle of a conversation. These actions aren't just about technology, they're about her prioritizing everything over the time you spend together. She may appear disinterested in the present moment, or uninterested in the connection you once shared. If the phone becomes her primary source of attention, it can signal that she's trying to avoid facing the issues in the relationship. Rather than confronting emotional concerns or deepening the connection, she prefers the distractions of her phone as a way to distance herself from reality. The reasons behind this behavior can vary, but one of the most common is emotional disconnection. When someone feels emotionally distant or disengaged from a relationship, they may retreat into their digital spaces. Social media, texting, and online interactions may offer a quick escape from dissatisfaction or discomfort. If she feels unfulfilled or disconnected in your relationship, seeking validation or emotional connection through other channels can be an attempt to fill that void. She may be engaging in online conversations or building connections elsewhere, whether consciously or unconsciously. Another possible cause is the desire to avoid difficult or uncomfortable conversations. If she knows that the relationship has issues, she may use her phone to distract herself from facing those problems head-on. She can avoid addressing the emotional gap between you by staying busy with online interactions. This can become a cycle where the more she withdraws, the more she uses her phone to avoid intimacy, and the more disconnected the relationship becomes. So, what should you do when you notice this pattern? The first step is to lead by example. If you want her to be more present, start by putting away your phone and focusing on your time together. This conveys that you value the moments you share and want to engage with her without distractions. By showing her how it feels to have undivided attention, you're gently encouraging her to do the same. Having an open, non-judgmental conversation about the issue is also essential. Rather than accusing her of neglect or making assumptions, approach the subject with empathy. Ask her if something is bothering her or if she feels distant. Tell her you've noticed she's been more absorbed in her phone, affecting your connection. Be sure to frame the conversation around your feelings and observations rather than jumping to conclusions. She may be dealing with stress, insecurities, or emotional challenges, and a supportive dialogue can help her feel heard. One effective strategy is to plan activities that naturally discourage phone use and encourage authentic engagement. Create moments where phones are put away, during dinner, on a hike, or when you're having a meaningful conversation. Designate phone-free times to reconnect without digital distractions. Doing so can help her become more present in the relationship and remind both of you of the importance of genuine, face-to-face connection. It's essential not to fall into the trap of jumping to conclusions or accusing her of things like cheating based solely on her phone use. This can create unnecessary tension and escalate the situation without addressing the underlying issue. Instead, take a step back and look at the bigger picture of your relationship. Does this behavior align with other signs of emotional withdrawal, or is it a temporary phase? Is there something deeper at play that needs to be addressed? Ultimately, if you can both communicate openly and find ways to reconnect, it can strengthen your bond. However, if the phone continues to be a barrier and she shows no interest in addressing the emotional distance, you may need to evaluate the future of your relationship. It's essential to recognize that meaningful connections require both partners to invest time and effort. If one person retreats into their phone or digital world as a means of avoidance, it's a sign that something needs to shift. By being patient, understanding, and proactive, you can rekindle the spark or come to terms with where things stand. Final thoughts. What to do next? Recognizing the signs that a woman has emotionally checked out of a relationship can be disheartening, especially when the bond once felt intense and fulfilling. The behaviors, avoiding intimacy, withdrawing emotionally, or no longer investing time and effort, are clear indicators that something fundamental has shifted. At this point, it's crucial to step back and assess the bigger picture to determine whether the relationship is salvageable or understanding that relationships evolve is essential. Sometimes they reach a natural conclusion. The key is knowing when to try to rekindle the connection and when to accept that it's over gracefully. If you're unsure how to move forward, taking a moment to evaluate the situation and consider the following paths can be helpful. If you still care about the relationship and want to see if it can be salvaged, start by acknowledging the issues. Ignoring the emotional distance that's formed will only drive a deeper wedge between you. Open communication is vital. Express your concerns calmly and without blame. Approach her with empathy, understanding that she may be experiencing emotional struggles. It's not enough to simply talk about the issues. Actions speak louder than words. Demonstrate your commitment by showing her through thoughtful gestures and changes that you value the relationship and are willing to work to bring back the emotional connection that has been lost. You'll also need to try to reignite the emotional spark. This could mean revisiting what brought you together, spending quality time, rediscovering shared interests, or engaging in meaningful conversations. But don't rely on grand gestures alone. Small, consistent efforts to nurture the relationship can make a significant impact. Even in times of emotional distance, demonstrating that you are present and emotionally available can encourage her to open up and reconnect. However, if the emotional withdrawal is profound and she has thoroughly checked out, it may be time to face the reality that the relationship has run its course. Holding on to something that no longer exists only prolongs the inevitable and can be emotionally draining for both parties. In these situations, walking away with self-respect and dignity is essential. Trying to force someone to remain in a relationship when they have already emotionally disengaged is not only unfair to them, but also to yourself. Accepting the end of a relationship is never easy, but it's a necessary step in moving forward. When you let go with grace, it opens up space for new opportunities and personal growth. Take the time to focus on yourself, work on self-improvement, explore your interests, and invest in building your emotional resilience. Doing so will prepare you for a healthier relationship in the future, one where both partners are fully funded and engaged. Whether you fight for the relationship or walk away, choosing based on what is best for your emotional well-being is the most important thing. Relationships are meant to bring fulfillment and growth, not stagnation and frustration. By recognizing when a relationship has run its course and acting in a way that honors yourself and your partner, you set the stage for a future where you are open to meaningful connections and mutual respect. The woman begins to check out of a relationship emotionally. The signs may not always be obvious, but they are significant. She stops initiating conversations, her responses become short and distant, and she begins avoiding time together. These shifts aren't just random behavioral changes. They indicate that she is withdrawing emotionally, losing interest, or feeling unheard. A woman who no longer argues or cares about relationship problems isn't showing peace, but indifference. In this case, silence is not a sign that everything is fine. Instead, she has given up hope that anything will change. When she spends more time on her phone instead of engaging with you, she often looks for connections elsewhere. Through distractions, social media, or even new emotional attachments. Recognizing these signs early is crucial. If the relationship still matters to you, now is the time to reflect on what went wrong, communicate openly, and take meaningful action to rebuild the emotional connection. But if she has already checked out thoroughly, the healthiest thing you can do is accept the reality, let go with dignity, and focus on your growth. Clinging to someone who no longer wants to be there will only lead to more pain. The key to navigating relationships wisely is to recognize when to fight for love and when to walk away with self. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever noticed these signs in your own experiences? Share your perspective in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights on relationships, emotional intelligence, and personal growth.